In this manual, I will be making the case that all human culture to date is the result of us humans not knowing the truth of reality, not knowing what's going on. In order to back up this claim, I will first present some of the beliefs that our human culture still holds as true. Human science believes that physical phenomena has a physical cause, even though this is a blatant paradox. Contemporary physics does not even refer to the non-physical. Contemporary physics does not refer to the non-physical, even though the only possible way to avoid the paradox of physical phenomena being caused by physical phenomena is the identification of a non-physical cause. Our mathematicians believe mathematical truths to be emergent from the presence and interactions of physical phenomena, even though mathematical truths never change and physical phenomena are always subject to change. This makes no sense whatsoever. We currently believe that quantities can be multiplied by themselves, which they cannot. We believe there is such a thing as less than zero, which there is not. And we believe that both time and the spatial dimensions are physical phenomena themselves, rather than the non-physical context within which physicality takes place. We tend to be keen to point the finger at the nonsensical things our ancestors were prepared to believe, and yet modern human culture believes all of these things, and billions of us don't bat an eye. Here is the single concept that has eluded our attention as a species until now, and which unlocks us from our ignorance. There are truths that cannot not be true. There are simple truths, seemingly inconsequential truths, such as 1 + 1 = 2, that simply cannot not be true. These truths are not physical objects in and of themselves. They are just truths that cannot not be true under any circumstances. But they are truths that apply to all physical phenomena. Truths that cannot not be true do not change. If they cannot not be true, then it cannot change that they cannot not be true. Human existence, on the other hand, is one of perpetual physical change that is always changing, specifically so the truths that cannot not be true remain true. This makes non-physical truth of the absolute variety, the objective variety, the cause of physicality, of physical phenomena. This is good for us, because we have always needed a non-physical cause for physical phenomena. We have just never realized that we needed that. Not clearly, at least. So now we have what we did not realize we needed. But we have needed it, and needed it hard. The non-physical is that truth which is absolute, unchanging, objective, causal truth that cannot not be true. The physical is the necessary, required expression of truth that confirms truth that cannot not be true and must therefore absolutely be confirmed. The physical is that expression of objective truth which is relative, ever-changing, subjective. The physical is the effect of the non-physical's cause. Non-physical truth insists that it is true at all times, in all locations. This insistence is the forceful output that powers existence, while each passing iteration of the physical expression of truth informs the next forceful output. None of this is understood by human culture at this time. Existence is as it is because of the interplay between the non-physical and the physical. And humanity, a physical species, does not currently understand this. We do not currently understand this. Hopefully, you do now, but I assure you, human culture does not yet know this. None of it. Our greatest experts, authorities, and educators do not know this. Human culture currently operates on the definitively broken understanding that cause is effect, that unchanging mathematical truth is emergent from always changing physicality. Human culture has this as a foundational belief, even though most humans don't even realize humanity has this as a foundational belief. Human culture believes that the physical causes itself and is the only thing that can be real, while the non-physical, by its very name, cannot exist at all. So effectively, human culture does not believe that objective truth exists and that mathematical truths can only be a helpful abstraction. Human culture believes that the complex is emergent from the even more complex. Human culture believes consciousness is a product of the brain. Human culture has not yet made sense of its own existence. Existence does make sense. Your existence does make sense. Our existence does make sense. The self-polarization that our history of being human has been to date, it is the stage of our story in which we have simply not yet seen the sense that existence makes. What I am giving to you here is the sense that existence always is, always has been, and always will be. Here it is. Your soul is the truth that cannot not be true. It is living truth. It is living because it must iterate if it is to be true at all. And it is shared by us all. Our soul belongs to us all. Your self is yours. Your self is the expression of our soul that is yours. And although the form of this expression is forever changing, it remains yours forever. Existence makes sense because literally all there is in existence is truth, living truth, that is alive eternally for no other reason than that it is truth that cannot stop being true and can therefore only iterate forever. Existence does make sense, and this is the only possible sense it can make. Whatever theory of everything you believe in, or whatever God you worship, ultimately there must be underlying truths that make it so, underlying truths that cannot not be true. Everything comes back to truth. Everything comes from truth. In truth, although there are always natural hierarchies in play at any given moment, because we are always more of this than others and less of that than others, there is no absolute hierarchy between us all. Our unavoidable bouts of collective amnesia hide from our human selves just what beloved old friends we all are to each other. This is what comes from eternity, from eternal expansion of truth, which is what you are. And it does all make sense. Making sense is what truth has to do. The joy and occasional terror for us is that we cannot always see the sense that truth is making, even as it unfolds all around us and all within us. The only real thing anywhere is truth. That which is true truly is. That which is not true truly is not. The only real thing anywhere is truth. And truth will not die. It simply cannot. We simply cannot. Through no fault of our own. We are living truth. We are the living truth. Even when we lie, even when we believe lies, we are the living truth. And so we always will be. Consciousness is the intersection, the meeting place, the interface between pure, unchanging, non-physical truth and historically and idiosyncratically generated expression of truth that is change, that is the physical. Truth iterating relative to truth is truth being conscious of truth. Your consciousness is eternal because it is born out of the eternal insistence that truth be true. The story of the unique location of your consciousness in relation to all the rest of eternal consciousness is precisely that. It is your story, your eternally self-generating story, because it is forever the truth of this moment as determined by all of those choices you made, every single one of them. Your consciousness is eternal, and it is born directly out of your past. Your human form is subject to change because its very function is to be the expression of change, your changing self-expression. Your consciousness, your sense of personal self, it is born out of the truth of your existence. And the truth of your existence will never suddenly and inexplicably stop being true, regardless of the changes your egoic body tries out. When we get down into the basement of foundational truth, it very much turns out to be as simple as this. It always had to turn out to be as simple as this. Truth iterating relative to truth is truth being conscious of truth. Eternal truth iterating relative to eternal truth is eternal consciousness of eternal truth. And that is what you and your existence are. And there is no escaping it. There is only the choice for or against reconciliation between you and your existence. What is lie culture? Okay, so let's have a little compassion here on this point for all of us who are members of it. When we were born into this world, we were not knowing the truth of anything. We only felt what we felt, experienced what we experienced. When we were learning how to make fire and tools to build homes, when we were first writing the roots of our religions, when we were creating our systems of politics and governance, when we were developing our understandings of mathematics and physics, when we were learning how to feel guilty and ashamed for not being good enough, when we were inventing the internet and learning how to monetize our YouTube content. When we were learning how to do all these things, we had no idea that all of the change we experience is directly caused by the non-physical, eternal, never-changing truth of us. We did not understand that we are eternal, but amnesiac of the fact. These were just simpler, younger, more primitive times. I explain elsewhere why the force of existence, which is the unstoppable iteration of truth that has to be true, is in a perpetual state of expansion because of its inability to stop iterating. Existence is in perpetual expansion because it cannot stop iterating. And this never-ending expansion results in periodic bouts of amnesia for us each time we expand into a new order of scale of our own being, one that we have never experienced before. How were we supposed to know such a thing as that when, from the point of view of our own living memory, we were starting completely from scratch? The entire human race, we had to start being that from scratch, from a place of complete forgetfulness of our own self. And it has taken all of this time for one of us to work it out. It has felt like forever, but it really has only been the blink of an eye in our eternity. So now, when I tell you that your culture is a lie, that all human culture is built on lies, there's no need for you to feel picked on. I know it is seen by many as a terrible, unholy sin to criticize anybody's culture. And here am I, criticizing all of them. But what can I say? They are all inherently broken because they are all built upon and from the confused experiences and thoughts of humans that simply did not know the eternal truth of the matter yet. My criticism is not judgment, only discernment. To point out a thing is broken is not a moral judgment, merely an observation. When I tell you that your culture is harmful nonsense, you may feel anger towards me. But if that's the case, then you are only feeling anger towards the person who has said the single most helpful thing to you personally in your whole life. Human culture currently is lie culture, and it just comes in many flavors. And I'm not saying that everything we have ever done is inherently worthless. We have done many, many beautiful things. We do many beautiful things because we are so very beautiful. We do beautiful things even while we are not knowing what the fuck is going on. That's just how beautiful we are. But here's the thing. That's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And I don't say that from a place of moral judgment. It's not good enough for the simple reason that we came here for more than that. We didn't come here to take solace for not knowing what is going on with occasional tentative, hopeful moments of love. We came here to first go through a rich and unavoidable journey of self-discovery, self-rediscovery through amnesia, from which we could then emerge with gusto, refreshed and alive and ready for our newly coherent choices in this newly coherent landscape. The culture of the human species, including all of the subcultures that comprise it, is our best response so far to not knowing the truth of reality, that we are eternal, The lies our lie culture is based on, yes, they are lies, falsehoods, confusions that we came to accept and present as truth. But they are innocent lies. So, for example, if I'm a child who attends your school and you teach me that negative numbers are a real thing, that less than 0 is a real thing, then you are a teacher who is teaching children lies. But you are doing this innocently because you just don't know any better. If you are a parent who teaches their child that displeasing you means that they are a bad and shameful child, or a parent who sends their child to school, then you are teaching your child lies, but only because you don't know any better. If you are a physicist who teaches there is nothing that is not physical, you are a teacher of lies, an innocent teacher who just doesn't know any better, but is trying to be helpful. So to answer the question, what is lie culture? Lie culture is all culture that does not know the truth and is doing its best in the face of that. Lie culture may well be hideous, but it really can't help it. How to know if you are a member of lie culture. If you are not aware that you consist of two intimately interrelated phenomena, truth that cannot not be true and is therefore eternal, and its relative expression, then you are a member of lie culture, a purely innocent member of lie culture. So, do you know that you are both the eternally never-changing truth of you and the eternally ever-changing expression of that truth of you? Do you know that? Do you live your life according to your understanding of that knowledge? No? Then welcome to lie culture. You've been here since you were a child, and you are still here now. And pretty much everybody you know or know of is also a member. It's a very big club, and you are in very good company. Let's see if we can help your time here be as pleasant and as free from trauma as may be. But in order to do that, we first need to take a little look at what it is precisely we will be freeing ourselves of trauma from. I do not name lie culture so in order to encourage that we condemn it from a moral stance. I don't do it so that you will condemn it. I just name it so in order that you may hopefully take it as seriously as you may. Lie culture is only a misguided mentor, not a thing to be hated on, but very definitely a situation to take seriously. Lie culture tries to teach us how best to navigate the world of being a human animal, one that may possibly, or possibly not, possess a human soul. Lie culture is split on this question. For those parts of lie culture that are atheistic, the human is a soulless animal that lives by chance for a short time and then dies with certainty forever. For those parts of lie culture that believe in some form of afterlife, the human has a human soul, one that is subject to moral, spiritual judgment, a soul that can be corrupt. Despite the many flavours of lie culture's expression, lie culture essentially views being human as a problem, one to be fixed if it can, endured with as much grace and ingenuity if it cannot. All flavours of lie culture seek to address the issue of us not being the eternal one I am. I think that may be the realest thing I have ever heard myself say. Religions seek to address for us humans the issue of us not being the eternal one I am. All of our models of seeking to define who and what we are and what is going on and what we can possibly do about it, they are all seeking an answer to the same lie, that we are not the eternal one I am. And in so doing, we, the eternal one I am, become convinced beyond doubt that we are not that which we are. And this is why lie culture is lie culture. It seeks to teach us how to address an issue that is not at all an issue, but a lie. And us having to deal with us not believing that we are what we actually are, us not being seen and recognized by ourselves or others as what we are, is a thing we have to deal with our whole life long, without even realizing that is what we are dealing with. We spend our lives dealing with trying to be what we are told we are and should be, when the thing we should be dealing with is our recognition that lie culture does not know what we are or who we are, even while it tells us it does know and knows better than us. This causes us all kinds of anxiety that comes in many forms and which we forcefully embed into our children, just as it was forcefully embedded into us. Non-dualists see the physical world of human animals as an illusion that is not conducive to one being at peace, when it is lie culture that is the thing that is not conducive to our peace. Lie culture seeks to tell us what it is we should pursue in order to find peace, satisfaction, gratification, and good things. And in the pursuing of these things, we find stress, anxiety, fear, desperation, helpless longing, despair, and bewilderment. Lie culture mentors us into this and tells us it is our friend who has our best interests at heart. The aspect of lie culture that you see yourself as belonging to is the aspect of lie culture that has achieved this most successfully for you specifically. Your culture is a misguided mentor. You may love it dearly, but it is a misguided mentor, one that betrays you. You betray yourself while you follow it, and you betray your children when you mentor them in the same fashion. You betray your children when you send them to school. You betray your children when you expose them unprotected and unguided to the ravages of the entertainment and social media industries. You betray your children when you do not show them that they are surrounded by lie culture on all sides in this world right now. You betray them when you pass your culture on to them. You betray them innocently, but the results for them are still the results of betrayal. The results of betrayal. What a phrase. Lie culture itself makes a big deal of how dangerous and frightening both physical life and human society can be. The sleight of hand that lie culture pulls off is to both cause human society to be potentially dangerous while making itself seem like the solution to it. Conjure in your mind a montage of remembered personal interactions from your life, from childhood to now, alongside images and sound bites from the world of news media, entertainment media, social media and the arts and so forth, from the world of culture, that you have received along the way during your life. And let them all be rememberings of messages that have anything at all to do with the potential dangers of your existence to you because of everything and everyone else. You could take an endless amount of time on that exercise, if that appealed to you, and it no doubt would appeal to some, for all manner of interesting and creative and unharmful reasons. But you do not need to spend very much time on that exercise at all in order to recognize the culture that claims to be the solution to humanity being filled with so much potential for danger is what causes human society to become dangerous to itself. This lie culture user manual is not here to instill fear. The purpose of this manual is to identify simply and clearly the cause of the fear so that one may not make the cause go away, but simply see it clearly so that one may avoid it for oneself and then get on with one's life. We do not make the cause go away definitively. We do not make lie culture go away from itself. We simply remove ourselves from it so that the foreground of our life becomes as free from it as may be, and we may then be, within the context of the foreground of our life, ourselves. We may be who we are, who we already are and have been all along. How nice is that, hey? Recognizing lie culture at work in your life simply means that you notice each time that you receive the message from another or from yourself that you are not the eternal and that you somehow need to be or do better. This is not a difficult message to pick up on, but you are going to have to pick up on it an awful lot, and for quite some time, before those trying to tell you that lie realize you're just not going to have it anymore. So, how is it possible? How can it be possible? How can it be possible for us to avoid lie culture when it is all around us in this world right now, when it is all within us right now? The answer to this is, it is not possible. Of course it's not possible. Lie culture, at the time of the making of this manual, it is all around you and it is all inside you. You cannot possibly avoid it. Not completely. Nowhere near completely. Even if you isolate yourself from the rest of humanity entirely, go and live alone in the woods with no books, no internet connection, the culture is still there inside you, in the way you see and understand yourself and the world. And if we cannot escape lie culture by isolating ourselves from the rest of society, and the great majority of us are not even in the position to isolate ourselves in such a way anyway, what chance do we have? The task is surely so far beyond us that, in truth, it's really not worth the trying, no? Think of it this way. You have spent the greatest portion of your life, ever since you were a child, blindfolded in the jungle of lie culture. And what you find when you do manage to remove the blindfold is that you are still in the jungle. You're still covered from head to foot in jungle. You are still susceptible to jungle parasites and jungle maladies and jungle predators. You can take the contents of this manual to heart, accept its guidance fully and without reservation, and you are still in the jungle, right where you were when you first opened this manual. So what good can this user manual be, really? Yes, you are still in the jungle, but your blindfold is off. And for somebody lost in the jungle, although the removal of a strip of cloth may seem a small event, for the person having that cloth removed, it is no small thing. It is a huge thing, vast and far-reaching in the effect it has on both that person's immediate quality of life and on their agency, their ability to navigate their way through and eventually out of this jungle altogether. How long will this process take? Well, it is a very big jungle, and for one who has been blindfolded as long as you, it is nigh on impossible for you specifically to know how deep in it you specifically are. Also, we are all in different states of health. Some of us have been ravaged and weakened by our time in here much more severely than others. All of which means, I do not know. I do not know how long it will take. I do not know how long it will take you specifically to finally find your way out of this jungle completely. I do not know how long it will take until the last of us finally steps out of it. I do not know how long it will take before I, myself, find its outer edge and manage to step out of it definitively. But I make no apology for not knowing this. I'm helping you remove your blindfold, and that is massively worthy of celebration in itself. The jungle is not really nearly so scary, even though it be all around you, as you may think, when you can see it clearly enough to not bump into trees and not fall into pits and rivers. That's where I am right now. I see the jungle and its blindfolded inhabitants all around me. I feel the jungle still inside me. This manual does not get you out of the jungle or the jungle out of you. It only helps you to remove your own blindfold. It is you that gets yourself out of the jungle and the jungle out of you. It is you that now gets yourself out of lie culture and lie culture out of you. We can help each other, but we can't carry each other. Seeing the jungle of lie culture for what it is does not mean we now look to burn the jungle, burn the culture down. Not when we are standing in it and it is filled with people. We just begin to take care of ourselves and make our way through it more effectively. Compared to our time spent blindfolded, our time in the jungle now is qualitatively much more tolerable. With our blindfold removed, it is now much, much easier to do those things that bring coherency to our own specific lives. Now we are less anxious and stressed about pitfalls, parasites and predators because we can see them clearly enough, which means it is now much more likely that we can practice such helpful, useful things as honesty, kindness, humour. Now it is much, much easier to ensure the children are not harmed. Some of us have had an easier time in the jungle, at least recently. Some of us will have an easier time getting ourselves out of it. Some of us will have a much tougher struggle than others. But as good as a metaphor this blindfolded in the jungle may be, what does the removal of the blindfold really look like in solid human terms? So let's have an example, and let's pick a tough one, a real one. Only a short while ago, I said, we betray our children when we send them to school. That's a brutal thing for me to say. It's a brutal thing for me to say and have some expectation of you that you do something about it. It is a big, big ask. Unreasonably big, really. Yes? Yes, it is a brutal thing for me to say. But it is sending one's child to school being such a brutal thing to do that makes my statement feel so brutal. What I say is true, but it also feels as hard as fuck to us who know that we will get in trouble if we don't send our child to school. And it is true that this user manual is asking too much of us. It is not going to help my child to have the government take them away from me because I didn't send them to school. Yes, very good. That is true. It is both brutal to send your child to school and brutal to subject your child to the risk of violent intervention by the state. And if it is both these things simultaneously, then clearly we have a paradoxically insoluble solution. Lie culture creates this situation. Here is how truth solves the insoluble solution. Here is how simple honesty solves lie culture. My dear child, I have to send you to school, and I don't want to. No need to feel bad about me for this, because things would go much worse for us if I didn't send you. But don't worry, my darling. School doesn't have to seem so scary if we both recognize it together for simply being lost and confused in itself. And we, together, can forgive it and enjoy what we may of it, while we, together, discover what our reality is for ourselves. For as you already know, my most darling child, we are the eternal one I am. While school, state school, is only an occasional page in our eternity. School will feel like forever, and then, all of a sudden, it was a short passing phase that becomes more and more difficult for us to remember. Tell your child, you are an eternal journeyer, just as I am. And the secret of the journey is always, you are here already. This is it. Here is your journey. And this moment right now is only a page in your story. This day is a page. The week is a page. The month is a page. The year is a page. Your whole life, your human life, is a page in your story. Some pages, my darling, some feel better, some feel worse. But it's okay. It's okay. Because we write our own pages. And when we know this, we know that we are mapping out the general structure of our future pages as we go. Even as we know that we will be fully surprised by the wildly idiosyncratic details of the precise form of ourselves and everything else that our future pages reveal themselves to be once we are reading them. So, don't sweat school, sweetheart. We'll get through it together and see what sweetness we can get from every page along the way as we head towards those breathless, freedom from school chapters. Whatever truth we do know between us and discover together along the way, that is the truth we will live by as we go. And in this way, we will endure eternity less and enjoy eternity more. It is a strange thing. We can know logically and purely that we are the eternal one I am. But how are we supposed to feel that we are? Unlike our children, we have had many, many years of having it explained to us that we are not that which we are. How are we to suddenly find ourselves walking about the place feeling as the eternal feels? Surely that would involve us feeling a constant flow of ecstatic love and being infinitely wise or something. Would it not? You do feel as the eternal feels. You feel exactly as the eternal feels when the eternal is in your exact situation, when the eternal has been through the exact same sequence of experiences that you have been through in this life. How you are both thinking and feeling right now is exactly as the eternal thinks and feels when the eternal is you right now. I have said elsewhere that I do not use the word God, except for the occasional reflex exclamation now and again. And I know many, many, many of you are big fans of it. Many, many of you. Just as many, many of you believe there is such a thing as less than nothing, and just as many, many of you believe space and time are a physical object. To presume you cannot be the eternal yet, because you don't feel as the eternal must feel yet, because you don't think as the eternal thinks yet, is to presume that how you think and feel cannot be as the eternal thinks and feels. And you may hold this presumption very, very strongly. If so, I encourage you to ask yourself, where did this knowledge of yours come from, that you and God cannot think and feel as each other thinks and feels? I'm not about to get into some awful deconstruction of religion here, because I plumb don't want to. If it helps you to think of yourself as a child of God, just let it be that you think of yourself as an eternal child of God, one whose eternity is shaped by one's choices. For it is the eternal's choices that shape the eternal's eternity. What else would shape it? What else could shape it? And let your relationship with your God be yours. Let that relationship be what you know it to be, not what somebody else tells you it must or should be. Let your understanding of your relationship with your God be between you and your God. Let others, whether they be priests or rabbis or whatever, look after their relationship with their God. If you sincerely believe in God, then speak directly to your God and ask for direct guidance from your God. You don't need an intermediary between you and your God. Of course, it is not only the religiously dedicated who may struggle to know themselves as the eternal. Those of a more secular orientation are used to looking at the physical world as the be-all and end-all of everything. Humans come into being, and go out of being all the time. And all we can really do is make the best of our inevitable doom. This is rationality. And what we do not wish for is other rational people ridiculing us for being irrational. Heaven forbid. Understand, if rationality is your most highly respected authority, it is not rational at all to believe that the physical has a physical cause. It is not rational at all to believe that the foundational causes of the complex are even more complex. It is not rational at all to believe in less than nothing, and it is not rational at all to think that the three spatial dimensions are made out of stuff. I am actually a big fan of rationality, of reason. I just don't see very much of it in our culture. Whether our culture is presenting its religious faces or its secular faces. If rationality is your bag, then become rational. More rational than you have been so far. It is as unfortunate for the atheist to not recognize me for who I am, as it is for the God believer to not recognize me for who I am, to not recognize their self for who they are, to not recognize us for who we are. There is no test that the eternal must first pass in order to qualify to be eternal. There is no level of achievement of goodness that the eternal need first attain in order to be allowed to be eternal. The eternal gets no choice about being eternal. You get no choice about being eternal. As for love and the importance of it, unconditional love is not the emotional quality to be looked for and promoted out of moralistic or ethical reasons, nor for reasons of status and rank. Unconditional love is the quality of emotion to be looked for simply because it is the loveliest of qualities. And who is it that does not choose the loveliest of qualities over the less lovely when they have free choice? And when it is the very quality of their eternity that is at stake. Do not think of being eternal as a dream wish you can only be unworthy of, but rather as the challenge that will never end. Don't feel lucky to be eternal. Don't feel that being eternal is somehow too good to be true. For there is nothing lucky about it. Luck has no part in it. Just feel blessed to finally see self-polarization, the great lie, for what it is. And then, when you get on with your day, do so in full knowledge that you are getting on with your eternity. Yours. Be coherent unto yourself as you step again and again, choice by choice, through your day, through your eternity, into your future. The biggest problem in this human life right now, for you specifically, is you specifically. The next biggest problem for you in this human life right now is everybody else in general. Do you recognize yourself as the eternal? If you don't, then that is your greatest issue in this world until you manage to correct that. If your answer is, yes, I do recognize myself as the eternal, then you recognize everybody else as the eternal also. And your biggest problem now in living in this world of humans is them not recognizing themselves as the eternal. But although the rest of the population not recognizing themselves is a pretty hefty issue, it is small potatoes for you specifically, compared to you not recognizing you. At the time of writing this manual, I find myself in that situation of recognizing myself and everybody else as the eternal, while not being recognized by a world of people who do not recognize themselves and can only be, therefore, unable to recognize me. Though I speak the simplest truths, I have, so far, been comprehensively unable to find a single person who feels able to agree with me. It makes me feel quite breathless sometimes. For those of you who do become the earliest adopters of truth, you will be faced with this issue also. This issue of seeing a truth that is so simple and clear and so blatantly self-evident that when the rest of the people in your life show themselves to be unable yet to see that truth, no matter how clearly you explain it, you may wonder what hope there can be for this society. My advice is to not sweat it. Don't stress yourself about everybody else. Yes, for sure, they hurt themselves and each other, and even continue to try to hurt you on occasion. But both they and you are eternal, which makes them incredibly robust. No, it's not nice to see the people in your life hurting themselves and each other. But they are eternal and they will get through it in their own time. As an early adopter, it is not your job to pursue the others, to save the rest, to chase their salvation. The more you do this, the more frustrated you will become, because chasing people tends to result in them running away from you. We are an amnesiac species right now. Our amnesia is not some weakness of personal character. It is not an indicator of your own personal failure. There was literally no way for us to come here collectively and for us not to enter into collective and complete amnesia. It's physics. It's the truth of the matter. If you and a group of friends agree to go on a mission together, to enter a specific room that you all know is going to cause the lot of you to become definitively amnesiac, but you know that this amnesia will eventually pass, and the contents of the room will make you glad that you were all willing to go through it together, then when you are one of the first in the room to emerge from that amnesia, and you look around yourself at your friends who are still unable to recognize themselves, it's strange and frustrating at first. But it's okay. It's okay. It really is. Because you understand. You shook off your amnesia in the time it took you to shake it off. And so it will be for them. They have not been through what you have been through, and you have not been through what they have been through. There's no point in trying to push people to heal faster than they can. Simply focus on yourself, on getting to know yourself again, learning what brings you stability and joy, even if it is only a quiet joy. What will be most helpful to your friends when they do start to remember who they are is to have somebody around who is already there and stable, being themselves, without stress or anxiety, and not pressuring other people to do better. It is not your responsibility to save others from themselves. That is their responsibility, just as it is yours to save yourself from you, from your lies, from your disrespect to yourself, for your lack of love for yourself, for your willingness to believe lies about you. You may feel you have so much to give, so much help and guidance that your loved ones could benefit from. And this is because you do have so much to give. But until somebody is coherent enough to ask you for it directly, just take a breath and chill and give that support and guidance to you. The more you do this, the quicker you will find that others do ask you directly and sincerely for your help. It is so easy to look at this human world and just flat out despair, especially if you use social media, especially if you watch or read or listen to and take seriously the daily news. But when you realize that all of these children you witness around you who are mercilessly hacking at each other are, despite all appearances, thoroughly indestructible, and that truly they are just going through a process of discovering for themselves how reality works in this human room, then sure, the pain these children are causing themselves and each other is still an unhappy thing to witness, but it no longer calls for despair or histrionics from you. They'll be okay. They will. They will be okay. It's just gonna take some time, that's all. In the meantime, you will simply create a space around yourself that is as free from the despair and histrionics of lie culture as may be, and hold that space You are still in the jungle, but you create a clearing around you, build a campfire for yourself. Others, as they remove their own blindfolds, may see the light of your fire through the trees, and they may come and join you, or build a fire of their own for themselves. It's all good. Relax. Get to know yourself again. That's your work. That's your self-responsibility. That's your answer, should you choose to accept it. If you decide to wait for some kind of seal of approval from lie culture itself, a thumbs up from some established lie culture authority, before feeling brave enough to believe, brave enough to know that which is so, then you will be waiting a very long time. Get to know yourself again. You are the eternal one I am. You are your own eternal friend, companion, and champion. As we too, all the rest of us, are your eternal friend, companion, and champion. When we are coherent and remember ourselves. And as you are our eternal friend, companion, and champion, when you are coherent and remember yourself. There's no getting out of it, however one may try. But there is such a thing as executing one's passage through it with a modicum of style and enjoyment from time to time, despite whichever rumours to the contrary. Eternity is not averse to being enjoyed. In fact, eternity quite likes it. We are all of us the eternal one I am. None of us are to blame for it. We were given no choice but to be here. Not one of us ever knows fully, completely what is going on. And every single one of us only wishes to feel better rather than worse. All of this applies to the living unified field in its entirety, and just as much to all and every of its discrete parts. So, you will never end, and it's not your fault. You have nothing to apologize for. You're just suffering from some self-polarization sickness, along with pretty much everybody else here. I'm glad we could get all of that cleared up. Let's all show some loving patience with each other as we emerge in our own good time from the shared amnesia that we have dreamed in together for so long. It is enough, even while you wait for others to join you, to just know for yourself. It is enough. Know that you are forever, and have patience with yourself as you become someone you have not fully remembered yourself to be for as long as your own human living memory, although you may have had glimpses along the way, here and there. It is, after all, truth be told. All about the journey anyway. Taking the time for it. Giving it the time it needs. What else shall we do with our eternity?